But that shit didn't connect. It didn't hit with me. It didn't connect with anybody. Nobody laughed. If you grew up anything like me, then you was taught that your authenticity was the barrier between you and what you deserve. And I'm here to tell you that that couldn't be further from the truth. I'm gonna tell y'all a story about how I learned the hard way that my authenticity is more valuable than I've ever been taught. In my childhood, I could say that I was around people who affirmed me a lot. I mean, a lot of the time I was around kids my age. My cousins and my siblings, they was the first people I was around. So once my dad got into the picture, he started to do and say a lot of things to throw me off of my path and to make me feel like I was less than, basically to make me feel like I wasn't worth shit. One of the first things I remember is I was in our backyard, like on the back porch, talking about something. I really don't remember what I was talking about, but I was a very talkative child. But I was talking about something, and my dad said something along the lines of, "You talk too much. You know, you're like a girl." At the time, I didn't really understand. What I was taught about gender is that being a girl when you're supposed to be seen as a boy was like the worst disgrace. It said that you was weak and that you had no power. So I just bawled. I just cried and cried. Of course, that didn't help the idea that I wasn't overtly feminine or soft for talking. This kind of continued. He really pushed forward a narrative that decided how other people saw me, from the perspective of this kid don't do nothing but talk and cry. Why can't this kid just be what we expected this kid to be? I believe that my parents was disappointed when they wanted a boy and they got something else. That honestly made me shrink myself so much, contort myself and hide myself in so many ways. But eventually, as a teenager, I started to navigate through my music and through my relationships with other artists online and just like regular people online. You know, for better or for worse, I learned who I was through those experiences and through me making that art. This was my first time diving into what authenticity really is. To be what you are, to be who you truly are. I realized that I was trans. I was way more outspoken. I used my voice way more. I said what I wanted to say on my music. I said what I wanted to say in real life. Like, I was honestly going hella hard. I started to notice that the family narrative started to shift towards me being outcasted because I was so outspoken. And my older sister, who's not very outspoken, she was put on a pedestal. Still, you know, treated like shit at the end of the day, but she was put on a pedestal because she was the least outspoken out of all of us. And they pitted me against her and vice versa. They pitted us against each other because it was obvious that me as a black sheep, I needed someone who could finish the job. So my sister, she would say and do all of these things to try and make me feel like I was unintelligent or I didn't know what I was talking about, that I was supposed to see myself in such a low light, in such a low regard. And I just kept blocking that shit. I just kept elevating. I just kept advancing and pushing forward because I realized that a part of me getting out of the situation that I was in was tapping into the confidence of who I am and leading with that, right? Once I passed that test, there was another test to pass, which was navigating the professional world. Because once I was kicked out and had to get a job, things got extremely complicated. My idea of my life wasn't even that I would have to get a job. My idea of my life was I would be living off of my music. That was the plan, right? And I was on that path, right? But I just didn't have that support from my parents. I didn't have that community around me, and I was isolated to a suburb that we couldn't even afford to stay in, right? Anyway, with things becoming so complicated, I went through so many different jobs where I tried representing myself as somebody that I wasn't in order to make sure that I could pay the rent. And let me tell you, bro, it's never worth it. it's never worth it. Once these people realize that you not who you said you was, bro, or they already smell it on you, or they think, oh, this person can't be this, when you really not, right? They gonna smell that shit on you. That's when these narratives and these plans, like how I explained earlier when it came to my dad and my sister, these people that have the determination to bring you down, knock you down a peg, to humble you while you trying. I'm sorry, hold on, let me fix this. The people that humble you while you try to uplift yourself and do something positive for yourself and your family. These people will do everything they can to make you feel like the authenticity that they can spot in you is the reason why you'll never be successful. And they'll try to affirm that in different decisions that they make against you. I had multiple experiences that align with this, but the most potent experience was my experience working at the racist cafe that I mentioned in my last video. A part of why that situation exploded the way it did is because I came in it not as myself, because I wanted to elevate my finances. And I feel like this is the most common situation. You represent yourself as someone you not to elevate your finances or to survive a certain environment. From the jump, I never wanted to be a server. I actually wanted to be a barista, but they just had this whole rigmarole around the trainer or whatever. The server trainer was dealing with, pregnancy. His wife, who was the owner, had been pregnant. She had just given birth recently. So I was like, you know what? I'll step into whatever role I need to step in order to get this bag. You feel me? Whole time I had no idea what I was getting myself into, because once I got there, and I had we gonna get to that later. Once I got to actually work there, I found myself being micromanaged, microaggressed, micro-surveilled, just micro everything. I was being watched very closely and being treated like I didn't know how to do my job. The job I had done before was a harder job, but this manager, I'ma call her Miriam, she was such a hard ass, bro. She would watch everything that you did, even if you knew what you was doing, even if you told her, no, I understand this concept. If you're ringing somebody up, she will literally watch you ring that person up, and she'll tell you to do something that you're about to do already. For example, someone says, can I get a macchiato and a muffin to go? You ring in macchiato, muffin, and then she says, make sure that you hit to go right there. Make sure that you hit to go right there. And it's just like, bro, yes, I know. She would do shit like that. But this was the moment that really should have set the alarms off in my brain. One day I was outside serving a table. I'm telling you, like, I was speaking the best white standard English I could speak. I guess it was like informal white English to this bitch. Can I get anything else for you guys? Oh yeah, thank you so much. We was making that connection, if you could call it that. There was no problems whatsoever with this, but she was watching me, like, in the back. Just imagine someone watching you at a table in the back, and she stops me before I go back inside to put their dishes up, and she says, when you talk to customers, we need you to be more proper, like, may I, not can I. Let me just interrupt the video to say she referred to the way that I was talking as blah. What the fuck is you talking about? What is you smoking? Basically, she was saying that because I wasn't speaking the Queen's English, that I wasn't being a good server. At the time, the narrative I created of my life was, I'm a black trans woman. This is the only opportunity I could get right now. They pay a lot of money, and I'm telling you, they paid a lot of money. I mean, mainly tips. So I guess you could say that I made myself a lot of money. I just told her, I was like, okay, thank you for the feedback. I'll do better type shit. But something in my soul it didn't like that. Something in my soul didn't like that one bit. Something in my soul ain't like that one bit. On another day, I was polishing a wine glass and I accidentally broke it because I guess it was thin and flimsy as hell. I mean, I really wasn't going that hard. This white girl that I work with, she was like, wow, why are you so angry? It didn't sound like a joke. It didn't sound like a especially because I still handled myself with as high of a sense of regard as I could. So maybe I gave off the angry black person trope, which, I mean, whatever, right? But that shit didn't connect. It didn't hit with me. It didn't connect with anybody. Nobody laughed. The room actually got quiet as fuck. You could hear motherfucking towels polished on the motherfucking glass. How quiet it got in that bitch. I mean, I ain't say nothing, but I told a friend of mine that worked there, and I was thinking, because I had this white friend who I thought they cared about me, who ended up not actually caring about me. Is what it is. They played the messenger of the feelings I had about that moment. And what I believe happened is this circulated among people. Oh, did I mention there was no HR? The HR was the white man manager who was like, if you run into any issues, just come to me. And we'll come back to him later. I believe that went around because people started to treat me differently and just started, like the owner who was pregnant before she came back. And one of the first things she did was not talk to me directly and try to get to know me. One of the first things she did was misgender me right in front of me. That's why I said on Cadillac, if the bitch call me a he again, I'm about to ruin her whole damn career. Because I know you didn't. And I corrected her. She looked at me. She had like these dark circles in her eyes. Like she looked like she never slept. She looked like she was a demon. And she cut her eyes at me like I did something to disrespect her life or her authority by correcting her on what my pronouns was. As much as I tried to present myself as this good Negro, at the end of the day, when I had to stand on my virtues, I had to stand on my values, these things are part of what got me ousted out of that environment. I never forget this middle-aged black man who was a regular at that cafe. He told me a story about his life, about a lover turning his back on him who was white. And he told me, you could give someone everything in the world. You could love someone with everything in you, and they will still turn your back on you. I was giving that job my all, not just shucking and jiving in the tap dancing. I was working my ass off. I would go there tired and come home tired. I was working my ass off. I was giving them everything. It was only a week of events that transpired that went from them hiring this new dude, this white dude who was very handsy with me that I almost slapped. They hired him and my spirit didn't feel right then either, but I was holding on. I did a reading on the situation because I just had a weird feeling about it altogether, and it was basically saying I would lose my job. I was one of those people that would read and not really accept what I was seeing. I'm not that person no more. I'll accept what I'm seeing and act on it. But I was just like, I don't really understand what this is saying. It's saying that you're about to lose your fucking job. Wake up. Wake up. You're about to lose your job. But no, man, what happened was the manager that I mentioned, who was HR, came in one day when he wasn't even scheduled to come in. I should have knew it was fishy then. I was like, oh, I'm surprised you here. This man, before I left, mind you, I was clocked out. He said, wait, I have something to talk to you about. Remember that server I brought up that was handsy with me, that I wanted to slap? He said, for our next busy season, we need someone with more prior experience. And we see that in, I'm gonna call him Jack. The manager said, we see more experience in Jack. And that's what we need right now. So it hurts to say this, but I'm gonna have to let you go. And mind you, he was saying that way slower because he was a bitch and he wasn't man enough to just tell me straight up. He had to insert all this. It hurts to say this. It hurts me a lot to say this to you, but blah, 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 woo, woo. I just got up. I said, why the fuck did y'all hire me in the first place? If there was anything that y'all needed me to correct, you could have talked to me about it. I brought in the money, bro. I delivered exceptional service and created connections with the regulars, all that shit. I cleaned so much. I would sweep for so long and do dishes for so long, bro. I would go to the back to do dishes. I was doing everything. So I realized it had nothing to do with the work I was putting settling in. It had everything to do with them creating a homogenous culture. Because guess what else they did? After they fired me, they changed the dress code. You used to be able to wear what you wanted. And then they changed the dress code to all black business clothes. You know how many people quit after I got fired? Nigga, the same day that this nigga fired me, he found a candle underneath the cabinet that was still lit. He found a candle underneath the cabinet that was still lit from last night that could have blew that bitch down. I was in shambles only because I got my hopes up getting into an opportunity where I had to pretend to be somebody else. Now I've been moving off of trusting my own voice, being myself. I'm not saying to pull up to the interview blowing trees and bumping GNX. You feel me? I ain't saying all that. What I'm saying is don't completely change yourself. If you have to come up with your own professional identity, do that. But for the love of God, do not take another culture's professional identity. Do not take another race's professional identity. Do not water yourself down to the point where you are 99% water and 1% you. And that's what I did. And I learned the hard way from that. And I was just perpetuating those same cycles that I brought up earlier in the video when it came to my family making me feel like shit for being myself. The real tea is that being yourself will actually get you a crazier bag. You will be prettier, you'll be more beautiful, bro. You'll be more handsome, whatever you want to be. You'll have better connections. People will fall head over heels for you. You'll get compliments back to back because you're going to be using your authenticity to put you in the right rooms. The way that you dress is going to give off a certain frequency. The way that you smell is going to give off a certain frequency. The way that you talk is going to give off a certain frequency. When you are emanating a frequency that is not yours, it's going to put you in situations where people will try to force you to constantly fit that frequency that's not yours because they can see it. And if you don't bend to it, if you can't conform to it, you are going to be cut loose. If you are in an opportunity, in an environment where you must be 99% water, 1% you, nigga, create an exit plan right now before it's too late, because you do not want to be late on the rent. You do not want to be hungry. And contrary to what whoever told you, your mama, your daddy, your siblings, your uncle, cousin, whoever told you, my nigga, being somebody else, acting like you somebody else is gonna fuck you up. If it don't fuck you up soon, it's gonna fuck you up later. But yeah, man, that's all I had to say. If you made it through this whole video, I appreciate you. I don't even know where a lot of that came from. My new EP, Trinity, is out. If you fuck with the messages that I spread in these videos, I feel like you would definitely love my music. If you don't, then it is what it is, but I have a feeling that you would really fuck with it. So I'm gonna put all the links in the description below. All right, y'all, peace.
If it's an issue, I can hit you. You just a zombie, none of your Nazi. Hey, you got real cool. I know you talking shit right behind me with them ugly ass acrylics. Oh my God, the hoes look fried. I said my bounty.